Hello, I'm Dawn Payne, and this is Empowerment TV, where I help you create your dream life and business. I have a special guest today. Her name is Connie Osterholt. She is just an incredible human and has been a mentor of mine, and I've learned so much from her. I'm so excited to interview her and to have her share her knowledge with all of us. Connie holds a PhD in psychoneurology. Over the past 30 years, she's worked directly with business leaders in 17 countries. Connie has experience as a senior executive, a strategy coach, and mentor to high net worth businesswomen in more than 10 industries, including public and private board members, as well as successful entrepreneurs. She is consistently focused on the power of feminine and masculine energy in negotiations and the nuanced areas of business leadership. Connie has worked with Tony Robbins for 25 years, heading up his leadership programs, and she has been a speaker and facilitator for 5 of his core programs. She is also a platinum coach who works with his top clients. Connie's whole career has been based on understanding teams and individuals. She looks at their behavior, personalities, and mindset in order to help them be more successful, happy, and fulfilled. She helps them by recognizing the patterns at work and the ones that are ready for an upgrade. In her training and teaching, she makes difficult concepts easily understandable. Communication is key, and clarity is power. In leadership, Connie helps people create raving fans in any team and create an environment where people love to step up and excel. She coaches teams and individuals by honing in on the underlying core issue, and then she helps them turn it around. Let's welcome Connie. All right, welcome, Connie. Thank you so much for joining me. I am super excited to hear your insights and to learn. And thank you for being a mentor of mine over the years as well, and for being just such a great, graceful woman and force in my life. So thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here, and I'm thrilled about being with you again because it's been a while, and
Yes.
it's always been nice to be with you, to work with you, and to be in an environment that's positive and works towards bettering yourself or being more happy, more successful, all of that. So thank you too.
Yes, absolutely. So let's start with that. Let's talk about mindset and how that influences our happiness and our growth and our success. Because I know you have some really key distinctions and insights on that.
Thank you. Well, mindset, it's almost an overused word, right?
Mhm.
You hear it so much, you read it so much. It's like adjust your mindset. That's where we start. I'm not sure if I like it that way. It
Mhm.
for me, when I work with clients, often they say, yeah, but I don't want to completely change. I still want to be me. So they have an expectation that they will change. And for me, it's more, no, I bring you back to who you really are. With
Mhm.
all the layers you put on and without the protection or whatnot that you had to put in place, I bring you back who you are. Now, with mindset, for a long time, I lived not knowing that you can change your emotions, right?
Right.
Don't have to put up with how you feel. But at the same time, it's important how you feel, right? So
Mhm.
we as human beings, as you know, we feel everything from
Yeah.
like super excited to super sad and everything in between, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, but you don't have to stay in an emotion you do not like.
Mhm.
What I do myself and what I teach my clients and taught my clients is, you have your phone, you put an alarm on. If there's an emotion you don't want to be in, depending on the situation, it's 5 minutes, or you give yourself more time,
Yeah.
go for it, sit with it, feel it. But after that, change.
Mm.
Change
Yeah.
to where you feel comfortable. Change by putting music on, getting a glass of water, a cup of tea, or whatnot, calling somebody, dancing around the room. So
Yeah.
it's more the mindset for me starts with your feelings, your emotions. And
Mhm.
when you train yourself to pick the emotion that you like to have, it's not always the same,
Yeah.
then it's easier to address your focus, to address your beliefs, to really acknowledge who you are. So
Yes.
it starts there for me. And I remember, and it's a long time ago. I think it's almost 30 years ago. And but still, I remember very clearly the moment where I decided to be happy. I decided
Mm,
that. It was just a decision. Now,
that was
am I always 100% happy? Of course not. And I'm always happy, like, wow, I'm so happy. Of course not. Right. But
yeah.
it's my baseline. And
Yes.
I come back to that. I have my moments like everybody else,
Yeah.
but I don't dwell there. I don't stay there. And when I'm in a better emotion, when I have a better emotion or a better feeling, it's
Yeah.
easier for me to think through, to talk through things, to make an easier decision, to, access my resources. So
Yes.
it starts there.
Yes.
Does that answer your question a little bit?
Absolutely. And you said something really key, I think, as well, that often gets kind of blown by in some cases, and kind of like the two extremes. You said if you feel this emotion that you don't really want to feel, let's say sadness, set your phone, give yourself a time to allow yourself to feel it, then make the decision and change. And I think sometimes it's the two extremes. People just stay in that emotion and just never really pull themselves back out, or they just blow by the emotion and ignore it. So I think that's really interesting and a really good concept and idea and something to practice.
Yeah,
Time
absolutely.
frame.
Because your feelings creep up on you.
Yeah.
They are like lightning speed, right? They're
Yes.
just there.
Yeah.
So to be aware and be present, of course, where you're at,
Yeah.
that is like what we all need to learn, right?
Yes.
But it's also when you go, oh, I feel sad, I don't want to feel sad, and you immediately turn around and you go
Yeah.
do stuff and you get in a better state. There's a reason why that sadness or why that
Yeah.
feeling came up, and there's
Yeah.
a reason for you to just sit with it just a little bit,
Yeah.
even when it's a minute. Because if you suppress it, if you push it away, it's like having one of those blow up beach balls in the pool. If you push them down, it will pop up again, right? Or
Yeah.
it takes
Yeah.
a lot of energy to
It's a
keep
lot
it
of
down.
effort.
I know. So
Yeah.
sit with it. And
Yeah.
sometimes for me, stuff happens in life. And,
Mhm.
with everybody, if you're here for a number of years, then stuff
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
But if it's like an irritation or, whatever it is, or a frustration, usually
Mhm.
it's what I discover, it's like a warning sign or a fear.
Mm.
Right?
Yes.
It's just a warning sign that you have to investigate it. You have to
Mhm.
see, what are the possibilities? Is there a reason I feel this way? Is there something I can do to prevent this? How do I get out of it? And
Yes.
sometimes when there's really something sad happening, and we all experience that definitely in COVID times,
Yeah.
it's when you grieve about something,
Mhm.
that's like honoring what was happening before. And
Yes.
that is like, another way of expressing your love. And it's worth
Mhm.
it to sit with that for just a little bit,
Mhm.
not to live in it, but to sit.
Yes. Yeah. To allow yourself to feel it,
Yeah,
you move
exactly.
through
Yeah,
and have the lessons or like you said, it can be just a sign or a signal something needs to be looked at or
yeah,
felt.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we both come from an environment where it's easy to say, well, make your move, get in state,
Yeah.
move on. And that has its merit, definitely, to have that skill, but
Yes.
don't blow by it. It might,
Yes.
give you an insight or teach you
Yes.
something, or, give
Yeah.
you moments of pause.
That's right. Sometimes we need that skill to change it in the moment so we can do what we're doing and then,
Yep,
go back
yep,
to what that feeling was that
yep,
triggered us in the first place. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. How does the unconscious mind influence all of this and kind of creep into these emotions and
Right.
these
Yeah.
things
So,
that
and that's my favorite subject, right?
okay,
Because
yay.
and I like to quote Carl Jung, And
Mhm.
it's like when the unconscious isn't brought to the conscious, it directs your life, and you
Mm.
just call it fate. And when it's fate, that's my interpretation of it. And when it's fate, you kind of feel powerless and helpless because you cannot do anything about it.
Mhm.
So there's studies that say that you live your life 95% of the time in your unconscious mind or your subconscious or your other than conscious mind,
Wow.
95%.
Yeah.
So it's kind of designed as a shortcut because we are so busy and we get
Yeah.
so much sensory input and things to do and all of that we simply cannot handle that in the moment.
Right.
So officially you can think of 5 to 6 things at the same time, not more, not less.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but then on a busy day, I might have 100 or more than 100 things to do or to think of,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
then you have to Rolodex through it, and it's
Mhm.
like costs a lot of time and energy. So
Mhm.
this unconscious mind is your shortcut. You don't have to think about how to brush your teeth. You don't have to
Right.
think about how to drive to the supermarket or to your work. You don't have to worry about breath or heart pumping and all of that. So
Yeah.
everything that you experience over and over again, or if there's an emotion to it, gets stored in that unconscious mind as a
Mhm.
shortcut, meant to help you. But it doesn't have a judge. It doesn't have a critic. So when a situation is like kind of similar to when that was stored in your subconscious mind or unconscious mind, it immediately reacts the same way. Now, that could be a pattern you developed or a reaction you had when you were 4 years old, or when you
Right.
were 12 or 16. And that might have been appropriate at the time. But
Mhm.
when you're 40 plus and you react like a 4-year-old, that's usually
Yeah.
not the best way, right? Yeah,
Time to make a change. Yeah.
exactly. Time to make a change. So it's important to investigate what's going on there
Yes.
and then to have a solution for it. I
Yes.
had a girl that I worked with, and she is great in doing what she does. She's frequently switching and doing something even more amazing, but she gets easily in overwhelm.
Mhm.
Now, first investigate what is that pattern of overwhelm? How does it get triggered? We got that. What is the
Right.
message overwhelm is giving you? In
Mm.
her situation, that overwhelm actually wanted her to be at ease and to do everything easy and peacefully. That was the intent. But it's not logical and linear what your unconscious mind wants.
Right.
It's a very crummy, roundabout way to
Hard to
maybe get
find
there, right?
sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So when we got that, we took the shortcut directly to ease and doing things easy and peacefully without having to go through overwhelm.
Hmm.
And we had some other like emotions to support her so she could
Yeah.
get herself in that state of ease or in that state of like self-confidence and grit before
Yeah.
she went to work. So
Yeah.
it's again, it has to do with feelings, it has to do where you're at and what serves you best.
Yes.
And some people, when they are in overwhelm or in stress, they go like, I have no clue how to get out of it.
Yeah.
Maybe I go work out and get out of my
Yeah.
stress. But the
Yeah.
trigger stay the same, the
Yes.
patterns stay the same. And
Yes.
when you just know what the real intent is, you can turn that around and
Yeah.
put some things in place to make sure you don't get to the overwhelm. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I really like the intent part. Like, what was the reason that unconscious thought or feeling or trigger,
Yeah,
happened? What is it for me to look at? And similar to what we were talking about earlier,
yeah,
it's like a little blinking light for a moment to say, hey, slow down, take a look at this. What is this really about? And
absolutely. And it's
yeah,
interesting. I really love it. I had another
yeah,
client and he had like bouts of, he said, I don't feel myself, but all of a sudden it overcomes me. And he called it the troll is coming out. And
oh,
he was like, not nice in
hmm,
that moment. He said, I don't want that, but I don't know how to stop that.
Right.
So to dive in and investigate that, and of course, you know, when you're like that in business or in your relationship, that's really not working. And people are going like, okay,
Yeah.
I don't want to do
No,
anything.
thank you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, thank you, bye. So what really was that it was an old pattern developed in
Mhm.
his childhood as a
Yeah.
protection
Yes.
for the little boy he was. Now, at that moment, he was not the little boy anymore. So we
Mhm.
could change that around him growing
Mm.
up and taking care of business, which he
Yes.
was very well capable of. And as a
Yeah.
little child, you're not. So
Yes.
that is a pattern that just came up with certain triggers and
Yeah.
it worked very much against him. So
Yeah.
recognize what is the intent, how can we put more mature measurements in place?
Yes.
And I love that work. I
Yeah.
really love that. And since that work, I think it's maybe 6 months ago. No, the troll is on holiday. So he
Oh, good.
doesn't need to have to come back.
Doesn't need to
Yeah,
visit for now.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, it's tricky when 95% of what drives us is something that we're not always aware of,
exactly.
unless or until it's something that is affecting our lives or affecting
Yeah,
other people who we care about.
yeah,
Um, and those who are willing to look, I think, are the ones who can truly have that happiness and the fulfillment in
yeah,
life. Because
yeah.
otherwise, we remain unhappy or reactive or
Yeah,
upset on a
yeah,
consistent
or
basis.
do not get to the end goal, right? Because if you
Yes.
have behaviors or behavioral patterns like overwhelm or like being downright nasty to people, that is not helping you to get your business goals. It's not helping you, you know, and you make it hard for yourself. You might achieve it, but
Yes.
it's a hard route. So
Yes.
all those patterns influence your life
Yes.
and sometimes not in the best way. So
Yeah.
let's change that and let make it easier on yourself and achieve your goals in a really easy way. I sometimes say it's really what we do in that discovery and change around process is the difference between success and failure.
Yes.
No,
Well,
so
it's kind of a bit of a cultural thing to push. And I can say, one of my experiences, and a little bit of background on business. One of the things I realized was I was doing things how I thought my dad expected me to do.
mm,
Or when I grew up in business, I realized I had all these unconscious rules and beliefs and things that didn't actually fit with my core.
exactly.
And when I had that realization, honestly, my business grew because I went back to my core. Now I use
You
concepts, like
really
I kept
are.
the ones I
Yeah,
wanted to,
of
but there
course.
are so many unconscious things. And I remember being so scared to tell him that I went down to 3 days a week working because he had this 7 day a week, always on top of things, kind of keeping tabs on people and everything. And, you need to oversee.
Yeah,
But I just saw him so stressed out and burnt out and tired. And like, that's actually not what I want. But that's where I'm going. But it
yeah,
was all unconscious. It took me a while. And I had to have like that exhaustion and burnout and all of that for me to stop and step back and look at why I was doing what I was doing. So
exactly.
I can certainly say those things creep up and creep in. But things were much easier. My business started to be even better.
Yeah,
I could push or I could flow. So
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
And talking about parents, you know, you either are a good child and you do exactly as, you know, you follow in the
yep,
footsteps,
yep,
or you're a rebel and you do exactly the opposite.
yep,
But either or is not by your own choice. It's not like you
yeah,
described, like sitting down and going, does this really work for me?
yeah,
How can I make it work so I feel good, I feel in alignment, and I
yeah,
still achieve what I want to achieve?
exactly. Yeah. And it's actually easier.
Yeah,
The
way
end,
easier.
it's learning it and is uncomfortable and kind of realizing it and
Yeah,
feeling like, you
yeah.
know, might upset someone, but I was so much happier. And honestly, he was proud of me. He
Ah,
said,
nice.
I
Yeah,
wish I could have done that. And I'm like,
yeah.
oh,
Right?
okay, that's interesting. Not what I
Beautiful.
expected, but
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
beautiful.
it ended up being a
Yeah,
really good thing for both of us, I think,
yeah.
in the end.
So
So
people, and I've heard that before, but you know, people say that the owner or the executive in charge is often the chokehold of the business.
Yes.
And that's what we're talking about. If
Yeah.
you're driven by something that is not in alignment,
Yeah.
or driven by something you didn't design by choice,
Yes.
then you can definitely be that chokehold and make things difficult, make the
Mhm.
environment, the culture difficult,
Yes.
and do not know how to motivate the rest and the team to be all in the right direction. And it's like, an insight, a skill, but it can totally be learned.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the things that has been the most challenging for me is following my gut. And like
Mm.
I hear that voice. I know it's there. And then but then making that switch. Can you talk a little bit more about, I know you have some research behind the gut feeling and kind of what it tells us and what it's doing, but that was something I really had to hone in that moment and
Yeah.
go, what's in me? What's my gut?
Yeah.
It, but it's one of those things that I always have to like come back to and sit with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And maybe just like you, I have been overriding my gut or my intuition for such a long time,
Yeah.
because I come from, well, not really conservative, but a very traditional country, the Netherlands. They're
Yeah.
very open-minded and they're very innovative, but they're still, listen to your gut, listen to your intuition that it has no place,
Right.
right? That is
Yeah.
like woo woo,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
please
So
don't go
there.
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's too weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Now there's a lot of merit in
Mm.
listening what your heart says or listening to your gut. And like you said, there's research that that it's really true that there are the receptors in those places that are very much alike, like what's happening in your brain.
Yes.
So I'm not advocating that you listen to your gut only,
Yeah.
but I'd like you to put it there, put it on paper, and combine it with research, analysis, and your brain and where you want to go. But
Right.
it's so valuable. It for me, it took me a long time to utilize that in coaching. But I was going,
Mhm.
oh, it's mind reading. Like it's like, yeah, I'm coming up with my feelings. I put my spin on it. So
Right.
I had to find my way how to utilize that in coaching. So
Yeah.
I never take what my gut says for granted or as the total truth. I always ask. I put it on the table
Mhm.
and I say, hey, something just came up, and then I come with what I feel or whatnot.
Mhm.
And they always agree.
Mm.
So when you are so intently focused on your client or on your group,
Yeah.
you also pick up a lot of the nonverbal clues,
Yes.
right? Or the energy, however you
Yeah.
want to say that. And that all gets not so much in your brain, but it gets into your feelings, into your gut. You kind of just know
Mhm.
what's really going on.
Yeah.
And it's a very, very strong influence. The times where I have not been listening,
Mm.
they
Mhm.
were not good times. And
Right.
it's often, and it's often with people, right?
Yes.
And when you meet somebody, you get a sense of somebody, and you either go,
Yeah.
yeah, I like that person, or
Yeah.
I don't know yet. And of course, you like the people the most that are just like you. So I'm aware of that,
Because
right?
we're awesome,
He's
right?
really good. He's really good, right? Yeah. And
Yeah.
but the people I don't like, or it not so much a don't like. It's like more be careful with that person.
Mm.
See what is going on and see what they're really about and see what's going on. The times where I have not listened to that voice to be careful always
Mhm.
ended not on a good note.
Right.
And I'm not saying those people are bad. I'm saying they had some behaviors and intent that were
Mhm.
not in alignment with mine.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that is the only thing, because I don't believe that people are really evil. I mean,
No.
they do things for their own reasons, and they definitely do evil things or bad things, but that doesn't mean
Mhm.
that their soul is like a really bad soul.
Yeah.
But when it's not in alignment, but it's not in alignment with who you are, with your soul, with your heart, with your
Yes.
values, with your goals, then the paths shouldn't be together. The path should take a left and a right. And I always was going, oh, I should have listened. Kind of knew, but I was going, that is nonsense. It's just a feeling. Let's just go on. But please listen to your gut together with what your brain comes up.
Yes.
Yeah, get some more information.
Yeah. Is that gut feeling connected to the unconscious too? Like on the like on a way that it serves, or do you see those as separate things?
I think the gut is more, and I don't know if this sounds okay for you or not, but it's like animals know what to do and what not to do. How do they know? Right? So animals have, for me, a very short line to what you might call the universal consciousness. Right? So how does my cat knows exactly how to jump and be in balance and all of that? And, you know, and he had a very short time with his mom, so she couldn't possibly have trained him so good, right? So, and if I take as an example, one of my sons, when he was very little, he said things that were very astonishing for a small child. And I do believe we all have the opportunity to tap into the energy that is around us. And when we, at least in my case, when we learn in school, we shut it down because what is it based on? Give me the science behind it. Give me, you know, your proof on that. So we shut it down. We don't think it's valuable anymore. But like I said, when you have that tapping into an energy of a person, you know whether they feel good, whether they feel bad. You know what kind of emotions they have. You know, sometimes before you have asked, you know what they're going through. So there is something that we cannot really put on paper, well, A, B, C, D, but there's something where you can feel into situations and feel the energy or the universal energy, and you can tap into that. So that is like the inner knowing about things. And please check it out. Don't go by inner knowing only, right? Check it out. That when you're really in tune with yourself, and when you kind of open your mind to the person and your heart and your gut to the person you're with, you get a lot of information that is not verbal. So that all makes up like your intuition, your gut. And when you allow that, for the longest time, I didn't allow that, poppycock, right? But when I allowed that, and I got some proof that what I feel into, yes, it's they agree with that. That was spot on. The more you trust it, the more you use it. So listen to whatever that is. No, go ahead. Listen to whatever. Are you good?
Sorry, the mailman just came right in the middle of that. His intuition and his gut is clear.
He wanted to be here with us. Welcome. Welcome. Yeah.
I saw the person walking up. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah. Life happens. Yeah.
Life happens.
That is totally okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter like whether you have a really great education. I'm in favor of great educations, right? I really like that. But I also, when I was living in the Netherlands and we had a boat and we became friends with an old grizzled fisherman who didn't even finish in his time. He didn't even finish, how do you call that? Excuse me.
Like high school or?
No, the first elementary school.
Oh, elementary school. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So in that time, you know, they were dirt poor. You had to work. And school was not important. He had such a wisdom. So where did he get that from, right? Definitely not his education. Definitely not because he was the most brilliant person on the planet. But he had such wisdom and such like intuitive. He knew the right thing to say. It was amazing. So how did a guy like that gather that? Right? So it has its merit to listen to what you feel, what you notice, what your gut says, what your heart says. And then take that as part of the information you have.
Right. Yeah.
And then
The
just,
conscious
yeah,
and
yeah,
the gut and the combined.
yeah, absolutely. And
I've found,
yeah,
oh,
go ahead. No,
I
go
was
ahead.
going to say, I've found that sometimes, and I agree, actually, I just did another video similar to this where, make your list, but if it's only a list and something's still telling you there's something funny, like let's say someone you've met, you got to still investigate that
Yeah,
something funny, and maybe it just takes time to know what that is,
yeah,
right? Like it unfolds with time. So just reacting on it is maybe not always the first thing to do, but sit back, and I like to sit back and watch and see
yeah,
what patterns show
yeah,
up. And then I start
yeah,
connecting the dots and going, oh, that's actually why I was feeling that. But I don't always know why. And maybe I don't, in the end, I don't know why. I just had to listen. But I
yeah.
usually find out why my gut was telling me something in
Great.
the end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the end. And
Yeah.
a why question is a hard question,
Yes.
because when you
Very.
ask yourself why, you access your mind, right? Your conscious mind, and your conscious mind is like a computer. They go like,
Going
"Bzzz,
all
let
over
me
the
look
place.
if there's any reason."
Yeah.
And more than not, they go,
Can't
search
compute.
comes up with nothing,
Yeah.
right?
Do
Yeah,
not compute. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So a why question is hard. It's also developing maybe the trust in
Hmm.
yourself, in the trust in your gut, the trust in your intuition to go,
Yeah.
there's a reason. I might not know why,
Yeah.
but there is a reason. It's valuable.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's giving it a voice.
Yeah. And when people, and I often hear that, right? Not only in business, but as I'm not sure, I'm really not sure. And when
Mhm.
there's other people that are more like persuasive or more forceful, sometimes they go,
Yes.
oh, come on, let's do it, let's do it.
Yeah.
Often you override that feeling, and I don't think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
And
I
often it's like, okay, give me whatever, 5 minutes, give me half an hour, give me till
yeah.
tomorrow, so you can sit, like you said, and gather
Yeah.
some more information and
Yes.
say, is this for me? Is it good for me? Will
Yes.
this work for me? Is this the right step?
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't know what the right step is, then you can go, is it okay to explore that step? Is that the right
Yeah.
step
Yeah.
for me? So
Yeah.
yeah, have a little bit more conversations with yourself.
Yeah. And I think the second piece of that comes up, at least for me, is that disappointing someone else. But I definitely had that happen in business because I had some business partners who were, quite challenging, and we had different opinions and different
Yeah,
views.
yeah,
And once I started saying, well, actually, this is what's right for me, it did upset things,
yeah,
and created a different challenge. But I think in the end, it was a more quality thing because ultimately I was more comfortable in how I was expressing myself and where we were going with the business and where I wanted to take it,
yeah.
um, as well. And then, they balanced out some of it because they're much more analytical. So in the end, it worked, but it took some time to kind of find that
Yeah, and
rhythm.
I can totally appreciate that, because it takes some courage to
Yes.
put yourself in the equation as well.
Yes.
And if you're like such a nice and warm and caring person that you care about the others first, so you care about them not feeling upset,
Yeah.
or all of that, you have a tendency to forget about yourself, and that never works in the end.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
No, no. Good lessons. Yeah.
But it's also a way of communicating
Yeah.
that can make it easier or not.
Yes.
So, and
Yeah.
I work a long time already with like a disc test. You're familiar with that.
Yes.
And it's simplistic and it's about your behavior, but I like the simplicity. And you
Yes.
can make it as complicated as you want to, but the concept is simplistic. And then you learn to speak in the language of other
Mhm.
people that are not quite similar than you,
Yes.
coming
Exactly.
from a small country. I speak a multitude of languages. We have to, nobody speaks Dutch. So
Yeah.
it's easier for me to speak a language with you,
Yeah.
although we both speak English, and speak
Yeah.
another language, both in English, with another person. It's
Right.
just having a different approach in your language and your communication that
Yeah.
can make it easier.
Yes. Yeah. Understanding that people think differently
Yeah,
than yourself, and understanding how to, um, yeah, just
how to
communicate
present that. Yeah,
in the way
yeah,
that they will receive it
yeah.
is a big part of that as well.
Yeah, and then, and I don't know if we want to bring that in this conversation, but there's gender expectations in
Sure, let's bring it
business.
in. I love it. I was going to ask you about some of that anyway, so you run with it. Go, go.
Yeah, so and still to this day, we're in 2023, right? We're
Yeah,
not in the 1950s anymore, but there are still gender expectations.
right.
And some of, how would I say that, what you bring to the table as like a woman, what you bring to the table as a man can be different. There's
Hmm.
different like focus maybe,
Yeah.
but the general is like a sharp mind, a good intuition, hardworking,
Hmm.
care for getting your goals and all of that. And then as a feminine energy, I shouldn't say like women only, but as a feminine energy, you bring a bit of more love and care and nurturing to that place. As like a masculine energy, you might bring a little bit more of, come on, let's go, a little bit more of drive
Hmm.
sometimes, right? But
Right.
what I'm talking about is often, and that is gender differences.
Hmm.
Some people, not all, but some people view a woman at work different than they view a man at work,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And there are like I spoke to a lawyer. One of my clients is a lawyer, and they still have like way more men, right, and way more men in a higher position than women. And often there's some derogatory comments towards
Hmm.
women, but
Hmm.
it's often as well that they get, and I wrote it down. It's they get feedback. So the women lawyers get feedback, and in this case, it was from a male lawyer, and they get often this feedback: you do not have an executive presence, and you have a lack of confidence.
Hmm.
Now, the men that are on the same level, because there's levels, right, associates and whatnot,
Yeah.
they do not get that. So it was
Mhm.
kind of a mini survey in their group of, I think, 30 women. And they asked their colleagues, their male colleagues, and they get
Mhm.
different feedback. So what does that mean, executive presence? What does that mean, lack of confidence? How do you pick that up? And how can it be that in a group of 30 women, they all get the same feedback? That's almost impossible, right?
Mhm.
So there is an expectation that they have, that they
Right.
don't see the women have those qualities,
Right.
but they do not see beyond what their expectations. And law has been like a male oriented, it still is a male oriented world. They
Yeah.
don't see beyond how would that show up in a
Mhm.
female form.
Mhm. So
They,
how do you help
yeah,
people in that, like, honor who they are
yeah,
in in their core essence, while being in a, this is an example of like a corporate world,
yeah.
and still having the opportunities and the flow
Yeah,
and,
yeah. So
all of
two
that.
things, right? And one is communication. We'll come back to that, and how you language things. But the other is I want to address that too. It's not that all women have feminine energy. No,
No,
we
no.
all have like a mix. Not all men have 100% male energy. It's
Yes.
it's a mix, right?
Yes.
And it's like, where are you on that scale? I'm
Yes.
not 100% feminine. I'm not 100% masculine either. It's like maybe
Yeah.
65 on the feminine side, and 35 on the other side. So everybody is different. And of course we can tap in, as me, more having a feminine energy, I can tap into my masculine energy. I like it.
Yes.
There's moments where I go, come on, let's do it, right? And
Yes.
it helps me. But it's a tool for me. It doesn't make me happy to live in that world, but I
Right.
can definitely access it. But if also the expectation is that in a situation like the law firm, people don't speak back. It's not a good thing to speak back, right? When you have feedback. So it's the languaging going like, for instance, thank you for the feedback. And in order for me to work at it, what specifically does that mean and how does that show up?
Mm.
So you get to understand the background of the feedback,
Right.
and then you could possibly reframe it, frame it in a different way, or in your own way meet those expectations. But just as a label, you don't have executive presence. What the heck does that mean?
Right.
Nothing, right? What is
Yeah.
that? That's something,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. Or, you have a lack of confidence. How do you know? How does that show up? How do you come to that conclusion? I'm curious. Please help me. I want to better that. So
Yeah.
there's a way to get more information, because just the label, the statement doesn't say anything.
Yes.
And if you do not have the ways to delve into that, you feel like you're stuck.
Yes. Yeah, getting the information is helpful because it's their perspective, which may or
Absolutely.
may not fit in terms of, oh, well, we want you to be more X.
XYZ.
You're
Yeah.
like, okay, I can be, I can ask more questions as an
Yeah,
example.
absolutely. And how do you
But
deal with, it doesn't happen a lot, but it still happens. It's like when you enter the boardroom as a woman and they go, hey, love, give me a cup of coffee. And you're also
Right.
the lawyer, right? You're
Yeah.
not the person who
Yeah.
gets the coffee. So how do you deal with that?
Yes.
And that starts with you.
Yes.
And it's like, do you just want to blow by it? Do you just want to go, here's your coffee, next time you get me some coffee, right? And
Right.
so you make it into a little game.
Yeah.
And or you say, well, I'm here to do XYZ and not to give you coffee. If you really want to, I can get you coffee, but just know I'm here for. So
Right.
it's also learning not to take it personal,
Yeah, that's huge.
and to catch it and play along with it.
Yes.
Because for a lot of, if we go back to that example, the women, especially the younger women, young meaning in the workplace, it was crushing for them, because they felt they couldn't live up to what was the expectation, because the expectation wasn't clear. And
Yes.
they were trying to make themselves be different, but then they felt they were not their own self. So there was
Yeah.
like this imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's, I believe that the people that get feedback like that, because some men might get that feedback too, but in general, it's more the female population. So it's how to deal with has to start with you.
Yes.
You cannot expect the other person to change, because
Yeah.
they've been doing that for forever.
Yeah.
They don't even think about how it comes across or how they're being perceived. It starts with you to not take it personal and find a way around it, to be more playful, but to still say what is, instead of just be quiet and go like, okay, I better do this. And a lot of people are just, don't want to rock the boat.
Yeah.
I like rocking the boat sometimes, but it's not the advice I give to people, because it sometimes lands you somewhere you really didn't want to go in the first place.
You
So
gotta be
think
ready.
about that. You have to be careful.
Yeah.
But it has to start with like not taking it personal, and to see what
Yeah.
you want in this situation.
Yes.
If people have comments like that, my first question is always, is it worth to react? Is it
Right.
worth it? And
Yeah.
often it's nah. And
Yeah.
then you just move on. But when it's really worth it, how could I react best?
Yes.
And sometimes when a situation is intense, I excuse myself. I go to the bathroom. So I buy myself some time to strategize, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I've actually done that. I've gotten up from a meeting, just excused myself, and then literally gone to the bathroom and like a couple deep breaths. What's this really about? What's happening for them? What's
Yeah.
happening for me?
What
And
do I
then
really want?
what do I really want? Do I want to stand my ground on this? Do I want to find a compromise? Like, what is it that's important to me?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then figuring out how to have that conversation and hopefully navigate it in a way that comes to something mutual, but it doesn't always.
Yeah. No,
And
it doesn't
maybe
always.
you even inadvertently rock the boat because you're like, well, this is actually
Yeah.
what I need and it doesn't fit. And we can't make other people do what we
Yeah.
want or believe
Yeah.
the same thing. It's just not
But there's
reality.
a whole gamut, right? You can be ignoring it. You can be playful. You can be,
Yeah.
firm. You can gather evidence, which
Right.
I've done too with like, you're saying things to me that are not accurate. So let me gather some evidence and then present it.
Right.
So, there's a whole different way of strategizing, but
Yeah.
please stay who you are. Be
Yes.
smart in your language and strategize in how you resolve this.
Yes. Do you think that sometimes this is like when we feel kind of that sting or that hurt of whatever feedback it is, it's partly because we don't identify ourselves, like it's our identity that's feeling um, just rocked a little bit, like, and then having to come back to who am I and, you know,
It's
what,
often a feminine energy feels like that
okay.
because, and it's often, well, why don't you see what I'm about? Why don't you see
Mm,
what my intent is? Why don't you
right,
acknowledge the work I put into it? So, but that's the message where I go, don't take it personally.
right.
It's not about you. It's most likely about the other person.
Yes,
So I have a period in my life, I have been on big stages, right?
yes,
Speaking.
yeah,
And that is still a male dominated world as well,
yeah,
And just before I would go on stage, and it was a pretty large thousands of people audience, and the male equivalent of me, or the person who wanted what I was doing, came up to me and said, you don't think the audience will listen as well to a woman as a man, you know that, right? So I could have taken that as like, dagger in my heart. And I was going, well, we'll see, won't we? So for
right.
me, I took that as I'll show you,
Yes, yeah,
right? I
yeah,
didn't take it on as something that I was giving out or I was not good enough or my identity. I saw through what the intent was to
yes,
make me unsure. So I didn't do a good job.
yes,
That was the intent. I got that in a heartbeat and I was going,
right.
I'll show you.
Yeah, here I go. Yeah,
So it's you don't always have to, and I think it's a gift that a feminine energy always goes inside and
mm,
analyzes and
mm,
see, okay, is there anything I can improve? Is there anything that I can do differently? I think that's a beautiful gift, but
yes,
it's don't get stuck there.
right.
Yeah, don't get stuck there and see where the remarks are coming from, what kind of
Mhm.
a person that is, and
Yeah,
if you would qualify that person as somebody who has the right to give you
mhm.
feedback.
Yes,
And most of the time, I wouldn't qualify the people who say things like that. So
yeah,
therefore, I don't take it on.
yeah, yeah. Choose the people who you want to have the feedback from, who you trust,
Absolutely. And you
and
get
respect
feedback from
them.
other people too, but it is like,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
not
yeah,
applicable. Thank
yes,
you. Yeah.
yes. And it takes confidence to, and that, that piece earlier, like just that knowing of what's right for you and who you are,
Yeah.
to be able to stand in that and go, okay, that was, that was their thing, and I'm stepping on stage and I'm gonna
Yeah. Do
knock
my
it
thing.
off here,
Yeah.
do my thing, because I
Absolutely.
know what
Yeah.
I know. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And I give it
yeah,
my all. And it does take confidence. So confidence is something that, you and I are both teaching, right?
yes,
Both physically and mentally and emotionally.
yes,
And you don't have to take on things. You
yes,
can often when I'm in an environment where I don't feel quite, at ease or quite safe, where I know there's people that will want to rock my confidence, I put on my Teflon suit, so everything that comes on glides right off. And I
yeah,
go like, all right. And then
yeah,
at home, I might think about it. I might do a little bit of an analysis if needed,
yeah,
but in that moment, I'm like not taking it in. I
yes,
refuse to take it in.
yes. I love that.
Yeah.
When I was negotiating to sell my company, I wore a lot of Teflon a lot of days,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Because everybody had heightened emotions about, you know, about the sale and how much. And then it was like negotiating with my partners. And then on the other side, negotiating with this humongous company that's private equity backed. Like there was minimum 10 people involved in the deal
Wow.
because
Yeah.
they had to go to their private equity partners. We had
Right.
to figure ours out. And there was a lot that came, that kind of came out. And I just kept imagining it as like things bouncing off me
Great.
and just like watching and listening and again,
Yeah.
stand up, advocate for what I want. This is what's
Beautiful.
right for me,
Yeah. Yeah.
and knowing who I was working with
Yeah.
was key. But yeah, that I had to
Yeah.
step into the meetings with
Yeah.
something that
Your shield as
the shield.
yes.
Yeah.
And it's often that, and that, like, comes from NLP, comes from psychology,
Yeah.
that people are either internally referenced, where they naturally don't take anything on because they know best,
Right.
or people are externally referenced. They need the feedback in order to know what is, right?
Yeah.
So when you have, and nobody is on either end of the spectrum. I know
Right.
some people that are pretty internally referenced, yeah, they're almost there, but usually people are mixed.
Yeah.
So again, you have a choice. Then you know where you're at, then okay, what does my internal reference say about this? What does my
Yeah.
external reference say about this? How
Yes.
can I combine them and see what the best is for me? So
Yeah.
when you're more on the externally referenced side, you have to be careful who you get the feedback or ask the feedback
Yes.
from and what you do with it. Because
Yes.
if you take that on for whatever it is without thinking about it, you
Yeah.
might do things that are not good for you.
Yes.
And like if you would have come to your meeting when you were selling your company totally externally referenced, it would have driven you crazy,
It would have
right?
been really tough. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
you go, no, I have my plan. I know who I am. I know what I want. I keep
Yeah.
everything outside
Yeah.
and just go by what is good for me. But
Yeah.
you have to know all those mechanisms
Yes.
to step into and make it work for you instead of work against you.
Yes. Absolutely.
And we
Yeah.
kind of learned to be externally referenced when we were babies and small children because you had to do what your parents said or your
Yeah.
caretaker said, right?
Yeah. Or
So
that's
that's
how you
just,
got your attention, or that's
yeah,
how. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. So we
Yeah.
have to grow up from that and say, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I understand, but now, you know, it's
Yeah.
I can make
Now I'm
different
grown up.
choices. I'm all grown up.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, I wanna ask you, we've been talking about business and that was kind of our initial plan, but I want to just tap a little bit into personal relationships
Hmm.
on the masculine and feminine, because no matter how we cut it, we're all in personal relationships,
Yeah,
even in business.
yeah.
So, like more the intimate relationships and the friendships and that type of thing, and how we that all plays out and how we can um, best navigate that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So relationships are wonderful. You need them in your life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Friends, family, colleagues, intimate relationship. We all need that in our life. They're wonderful. And they are also a huge mirror for
Mhm.
you to see what you're good at, what you're not good at, right? And what
Right.
you run into. So I think first in relationships, but in life as well, you need to understand who you are. Like if we
Mhm.
take the disc, are you
Yeah.
on the dominant side? Are you on the
Yeah.
cautious side? Makes a huge difference. Are
Yes.
you like an introvert or an extrovert? Right? Are you, the life of the party, or do you rather be by yourself? What kind
Mhm.
of like mechanisms do you use? Are you externally referenced? Are you internally?
Right.
So know yourself and know your triggers. What triggers you?
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
triggers come from your unconscious mind, from
Yeah.
situations before, and especially in intimate relationships, you have a lot of triggers from intimate
Mhm.
relationships, things
Yeah.
that happen, things that might have hurt you,
Right.
and things that didn't go your way. So if you're not taking care of that, and if you're not saying, okay, that's really in the past, that's not
Mhm.
in the now, You
Yeah.
can be in the most wonderful relationship, but when you get triggered into a past experience and you make it true in the present,
Yeah.
you're not accurate, and
Yeah.
you're doing yourself, how do you say that? You don't do yourself any favors.
Right.
So it's really knowing yourself. That's part one.
Yeah.
But then also knowing the other people.
Yeah.
Where are they coming from? What is their preferential behavioral way? You know, how are they wired? Are they coming from big picture, fast, fast, fast? And I come with my story that takes half an hour before we come to a question. That's not a match, right? So knowing what the other person is about will help you too. Knowing at their core, do they have more of a masculine energy? Do they have more of a feminine energy? Very important to know.
Yeah.
Right? And if, like I said, I have at least 35% like masculine energy in me, right? And I like it. It's just me. It's
Yeah.
not good, it's not bad, it's just me.
Yeah.
But if I'm with a person who has more of a masculine energy and I tap into my 35% of masculine energy, we will butt heads, right? And will not come to a conclusion, or we don't have an harmonious time.
Yes.
So since I have more of the feminine energy, I choose to live there.
Yeah.
Definitely in my relationship.
Yes.
Right. And in work, it depends a little bit. If it's very task oriented, I step into that masculine energy. If it's people oriented, it serves me better to come from that feminine energy.
Yes.
Right. But there are times, even when you're in a feminine energy and something needs to happen, that it's like, you know, mama bear is coming out and we're going to make it happen.
Yes.
So it's more, what I'm saying is knowing yourself, knowing the other person, but then pick and choose what gives you the best results or the most fulfillment.
Right. Yeah.
Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Because I do not believe in the stories where the one partner is labeled as you're 100% masculine and the other partner is labeled you're 100% feminine. I don't believe in that. And I do not believe that in this day and age, there need to be a submissive partner and a dominant partner. It's kind of the ebb and flow, right?
Yes.
But you have to pick and choose what works best.
Yes. And finding the match in those energies is part of it, but also finding the match in the, you know, in the preferences and who we are.
Yeah.
There can be great people, but maybe not the right match.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Or, you know, people that just aren't, you know, they're dealing with their stuff, and you know, their past is popping up, and our past is popping up, and it just you know,
But when I've learned to how would I say that, to give grace periods.
That's a good way
you
to
know
say it.
And I didn't do that when I was younger. This is how it is, right? And if you don't want that, it's over, kind of like masculine energy, wrongly chosen. But when I give grace periods, because I know who that person is, I know what that person stands for, and I know that we're all human and we mess up at times. We do stupid stuff at times. We all do. And then when I give a grace period, because I know and trust that person, makes life a lot easier. I'm working with a couple, and she is like, you know, chock full of rules, and it has to be her way, otherwise she's not happy, and she accuses her and blames her husband for it. Right? And she never ever gives him a grace period.
Right.
So we're working on that. So that is not a good concept for a full relationship, right?
No, that's great. I just thought, while we're on the topic, of course, you know, intimate relationships and friendships are a huge part of our life. And that drives us as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's like I'm a big favor of, you know, how would I say that? Kind of having your own life as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, in a relationship, because and I have to think about things like, you know, I was coaching an older couple. They married when she was 66 and he was 71. They married later in life, and they both had a very busy life. And when they got married, they both retired, and they'd be together 24/7. They drove each other crazy,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm a firm believer of like not having your total on life, but have hobbies and interests
Yes.
and friends
Yes.
for yourself. And of
Yes.
course, I don't mean, have affairs and stuff like that. Everything needs to be talked about, but have a girls' day out.
Yeah.
Go to, an exhibition or whatever that feeds you, and your
Yeah.
partner couldn't care less, right?
That's
And
right.
for the partner as well, make sure you have your own hobbies, your own interests, you
Yeah.
do your own thing. So when you are together, you have a more richer coming
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. You're both full.
Yes,
You come together as who you are as individuals
exactly.
to
Very well
create that
said.
other entity together.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's more of because there's a lot being said about being codependent, right? And I
Mm,
think the one sentence about codependence, if you expect your partner to fill all the boxes, to check all the
right.
boxes, and to make you happy, he or she has to
Yeah.
make me happy, right?
Yeah.
But if you, like you said, you fill yourself up, you
Yeah.
come as a
Yeah.
whole to the
Yeah.
relationship,
Yeah.
and then there is just a wonderful time because you don't need anything. It's
Yeah.
just the cherry on top, right? You
That's
just
right. Yeah.
enjoy all the extras, but you don't come from a place of where you need something, or
Yeah.
when there's something missing that the other partner needs to
Yeah. Yeah. Coming from a place of lack,
yeah,
not from
exactly, of
a place
scarcity of
of
yeah,
abundance
yeah,
and yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree.
And
Yeah,
self-worth and knowing who you are and all of those things
yeah,
as well.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Wonderful. Anything else? Any other thoughts or like insights?
How
I
much,
could talk
how much
forever, but
time? Yeah, how much
all
time
day.
do we have? No, I think you asked before when we prepped a little bit. It's
Yeah.
what is my, what drives me or what pulls me through, right?
Yes.
And I think I had this. I can't remember when it started. I think I had this forever, that I just know that there's always a way.
Mm,
And even in the darkest of times, I
yeah.
knew that there was always a way. It might have taken a little bit longer than I wanted, but I knew that there was always a way. So I think that guides me through a lot.
I
And
love
that
that.
also makes me never really give up,
Yeah.
because there's always a way. You have your own resources inside of you. You have
Yeah.
beautiful people like yourself on the outside,
Mhm.
and books and courses and mentors and
Yeah.
masterminds and coaches and all of that at your fingertips, role models to help you through whatever you need to go through.
Mm. Mhm. I love that. That's such a great belief to have because then you will move through
Yeah,
and there is a way.
yeah. There's
And
always
this
a
doesn't
way.
last forever, even though kind of sometimes things suck for a while. But
They
you
do. Part of life. They
it's part
do.
of life. But
Yeah, yeah, they do.
yeah,
I
yeah,
just saw a Facebook post and I know the story. He didn't go into that story. And this too shall pass.
yes,
This is a story of your life, and you have a wonderful, glorious time. It will pass. When
yes,
you have the saddest of times, it will pass.
yes,
So that
yes.
is kind of like the
Yeah,
counterpart. There's always a way. This too
there's
shall
always
pass. Yeah,
yeah. I think that's a great thing to remind all of us is
yeah,
there's always a way and there's always someone or something or where you can get the help or the resources or whatever it is.
yeah,
And there is a path to the other side, even if you're already in a great place and you want to go somewhere,
yeah,
you know, new, or you're going through a challenge and
yeah.
yeah, there's
And
like
you always have the right to ask. You might not always get a yes, but keep on asking. It's okay to
yeah,
ask. It's okay
yeah,
to go to a friend or to go to somebody else and just
yeah,
ask. Yeah,
absolutely. And people want to help. I
absolutely.
think we forget that sometimes that people
Yeah,
are actually happy to be there.
yeah,
Most times like you said, that they might not always say yes, but
yeah,
um, yeah, there are people who care and who want the best
Absolutely.
and are smart and can definitely
Yeah.
be helpful.
Give
Yeah,
you a little boost.
that's
Absolutely.
right. Yeah, there's always a way.
There's always a way.
There's always
All
a way.
right.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
If people want to get a hold of you, want coaching, want you to be one of their guides and resources, how can they get a hold of you?
They can text me. I love texting.
Okay.
In America,
Yeah.
310-980-8411. Just text me
Just text.
and we'll
That's so
find a
funny.
way.
We'll find a way.
And you
So
can go
good.
to my
So good.
website, Dr. Connie
Yeah.
online. That's fine too, but text
Yeah.
is the most direct way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Connie.
You're welcome. My
always
pleasure.
gain something from our conversations, and thank you for sharing your insights and everything else with all of us.
You're welcome. My pleasure, Dawn.
All right. Take care.
Yeah. You too. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining this episode of Empowerment TV. And remember, keep believing in yourself and keep believing in your dreams. You have everything it takes to make them all happen. I'll see you next time.